All right, it's 7 o'clock, so we will call the October Village of Northport regular council meeting to order. And let the roll call show that all trustees are in attendance, along with the manager, clerk, treasurer, and DPW superintendent. Everybody's here. All right. Bill's and Zoo. Next agenda item is the approval of the council meeting minutes from September 12th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by James, supported by Laura to approve the meeting minutes. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval of the agenda, amendments, additions? Any?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Barb, supported by Jane to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor of approval of the agenda as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nays? Okay, we've got an agenda. That brings us to our first public comment. You've got 5 minutes, public comments, if you need it all. We'll recognize you. If you'd like to unmute yourselves or if you're in person. Mike, we'll do it first since you're here.
First of all, I was told the Tiger game would be on TV here, so. But I just want to make a quick, first Mike McMillan, Northport. I just want to make a public comment about how the Northport Uncaged was handled. I thought you guys did a great job. I mean, Chris and your crew, everybody else, the volunteers, everything else. I couldn't have been prouder to be part of the community. So as we build on that, try to include the township maybe in what we can do, what we can contribute in the future as well. But it's a great event for the whole township. So thanks.
Yeah, perfect weather didn't hurt.
Thank you.
Yeah, whoever's in charge of weather.
We get it right every time.
Anyone in Zoom want to make a public comment? I see Ann, I see your hand up.
Good evening. Thanks very much. I would second what Mike said about the fantastic Uncaged day we had. It was really terrific to see the community working together. I saw on your agenda that there was going to be some discussion of the 15th Street. I'm sorry, not the 15th Street. 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. I'm being distracted by the Tigers game, by the way. It's 1-1. In case you want that update. The mile speed limit on Bay and Rose from the Marina to 6th Street. I'd just like to say I don't know entirely. I look forward to hearing your conversation about it, but not knowing what you are going to say, I would just say that I supported this speed limit when it was implemented, voted on and implemented a couple of years ago. I'd just like to remind you all that there are still no sidewalks on Rose Street between 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 6th. And there is a lot of pedestrian and bicycle and other sorts of non-car and truck traffic that uses that road precisely because it leads directly to downtown and to our marina. And I think it's really helpful to have the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit there. It reminds motorists to just slow down. And I don't think we have any problem with, I've never seen a police officer trying to ticket people and raise revenue for the county by ticketing people or anything like that. But I do think that those signs remind everybody that there are a lot of pedestrians and cyclists and people with strollers along there. So I hope you are not planning to change that. And if you are, I will be disappointed because I think that going forward, we need to do as many things as possible to make the village a walking and slow moving environment and have cars as necessary. Obviously, we have a state highway that goes right through the center of town. And I think it's really important that our other streets be as quiet and safe as possible going forward as there's more and more development and more traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Would anyone else in Zoom like to make a public comment? All right, seeing no other takers, we'll move on to correspondence. Any received? I think any of it was in the packet. That brings us to our staff reports. First up, we've got the clerk.
You have my report and our financial report and the bill sheet. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Nothing for the clerk. We will, thanks, Joni. We'll move along to treasurer.
You have my report, any questions?
I have a question, but I hate to use this because Will wants to get out of here fast. But
You
what do
can-
you, how do you get the other 7% of the taxes you haven't collected?
From the county, they'll collect.
They collect,
If we get turned over to the county.
so we don't have to. All right.
Once they're so far past due,
Then-
then you don't pay them here, you pay them there, and then
Right.
they kick them back to us.
I got it.
Exactly.
I don't
That's,
know
that's
why,
where
but-
we're at right there.
Yeah.
I got it, thanks.
That's how state law works. General property tax law.
Oh, thanks, Diana. Chris, DPW.
Everybody has my report in their packet. Any questions? That answer.
I just want to say I really like the grade too. That's all. The grade on the.
Yeah, that was, that was kind of one of those quiet projects we did, but it was necessary.
I think it's great. I walk by it every day 2 times, so.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you do.
I saw it, yeah, smart. Anything else for Chris? No, just kudos on Uncaged. Well done, well done.
That was passed
Yeah.
on.
Is it getting easier with time?
Every year it's like, oh, we're doing this again. But yeah, it was, I think it was well orchestrated, and I think the communication was well done, so.
Okay, I'll pass that on to
Yeah.
the board.
Sorry I missed the party,
I-
the post party.
I think too that the revised configuration made for smoother flow.
Definitely.
This was a.
Heard a lot of things back and forth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't necessarily your decision,
No,
but
just, food court and so on, yeah. Always improvements.
Thank you. Great job. That brings us to Harbor Master Bill. His report was in the thing. That flagpole is kind of cool. I didn't know that was Kathy Firestone's memorial.
Yeah.
Northport history, got to keep that alive.
That flag, I
We're
guess,
working on replacing the plaque somehow.
okay.
So-
Yeah, the flagpole was that was a great move, and it was great to find out the rest of the history about the flagpole. And we'll get that plaque replaced on the flagpole. A lot of great comments on the location of that. Thanks to Josh and Kent for taking care of that. That was great. I'll also mention we brought in more boats for Uncaged than we did 4th of July. So it was a fabulous weekend. I mean, I'm running with a minimal crew, and everybody just had a great time, and everybody's cool. It's a great end of the season. It's a great way to end the season. So
Maybe you brought more boats because was more room.
there was more room. Definitely there was more room. There were more seasonals that pulled out this year, and I had room to get in some bigger boats. And the people that come up from Traverse just really love that. They look forward to it. It's just a great event. Yeah, super. I would only mention add to my report that the season as a whole was, as I look back on it, was like a B+ season. It was June started out slow, and September was a great end of the season. We had good business in September. End of the season down a little bit from last year, but all in all, a really great experience. Yeah.
Thank you for your work.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Village manager.
I have an extensive written report that you can review, and any questions even after the meeting would certainly be welcome. I prepare that largely to document the things that staff has done, not necessarily to generate discussion at the meeting. As far as the plaque on the flagpole goes as well, I didn't mention that in my report, but I have met with Kathy Firestone, and she's indicated that the family is interested in that replacement and that they'll fund the cost of doing so. So we'll give them all the options that they have. I've done a little bit of research, many ways that you can do that. That original plaque, looked at it, looks as though it was plastic. But that's why it came off, but. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that reminds me, there's a birch tree down by the Pavilion Park that was for somebody, and that sign is broken off.
Okay.
It's like maybe Chief Walker's or some of the ones. So I remember because I brought it up here and left it on the village doorstep.
We got several flags.
Okay, sorry to delay.
Unless there are questions, that's it for me.
Any questions for Jim? Don't feel like you can't ask if you have something, just because the game's done. We're only 11 minutes in and we're like, staff reports and everything.
Hey, don't make me too much of a bag.
All right, nothing for Jim. Then we will move on to committee reports, none for rescheduling, infrastructure and finance. That brings us to planning commission.
The September 18th minutes were in the packet, and the only thing that I will highlight is that the planning commission went through the entire list of CIP projects, applied the 3 criteria and rated all of them in a single meeting.
Woo, thanks, bravo.
So the zoning administrator has the compiled results, and those will be coming at some point to the.
I was considering placing it in this month's packet, but since we weren't going to be discussing it or doing anything with it, I'll
Yeah.
save it for another time.
But it is completed, so as the need for projects arises and budget is available, they will be ready.
All right, anything for Jane? Okay, sounds good. Discussion items. First up is the Village Council Halloween event, October 31st. Hot dogs.
I'm in.
I'm available.
Yeah,
But
me too. So,
I will provide the grills as usual.
all right, excellent.
I'm here, I'm available.
Okay,
I'm not, I'll be
Yeah.
trick or treating.
I'm sure, yeah. Make sure those kids are being well stocked.
That's right.
What time we start? 4 o'clock? That's what I thought, 4 o'clock, 4 to 7.
Isn't it always really, it's really slow from 4 to 5 and then something.
It's, yeah, 5 o'clock is when I think everybody, school gets
Okay.
out, they
I
get
thought there was
home.
something
all
else.
that, you know.
Didn't, they used to go to the fire hall, they don't do that anymore.
no,
Yeah.
And the school used to have.
Last
right.
year,
Okay.
last year it was so cold, we were ready to close up, and then all of a sudden there was a huge rush of people that came in.
That's right.
Well, and it
All
was,
of
the
them.
mitten was
It's funny.
closed last year, so that made a big difference.
The mitten was closed for Dan and Wendy's wedding.
Oh.
So that was also,
That was the main reason.
so that, so,
I'm
All right.
at this.
so. Thanks for everybody for their,
Confirming that, we'll also get
Involvement.
that on the website so people know.
Do we
that
want to
it's-
make it 4:30 to 7 or?
It's not a bad idea, because it just, nobody, you
sure,
set up at 4 and you're standing around, so.
4:30?
4:30 to 7.
All right, 4:30 to 7.
We'll still want people to assist with the setup at 4 though.
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah,
there at
but
4.
rather than 3:30 to set everything up, we
Yeah.
can set up at 4.
Event I need to go to, I think around 6 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah, I can be there early.
I'll be there early. Okay,
All
that's
right,
easy.
okay, item B, social district, discussion concerning map revisions.
I didn't have a lot to say about that. I did include in the Dropbox a proposed revision that basically takes out any appearance that the residential structures are
Good.
Yes,
part of the zone. And it really makes it clear that it's just the sidewalk.
yeah,
So I wanted you to review it. I don't think you need to actually, approve it at this meeting. I'm gonna make sure that it's acceptable to Liquor Control Commission. And then probably next month, present that as a revision, as well as some revisions to the management protocol that you also have to approve.
so I think that this signage would have been helpful for the volunteers at Uncaged. I was familiar enough and was able to tell people, as long as you stay on the sidewalk, yes, you can go down to Marina Park. But not all of the volunteers were prepared with that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah,
So,
and most of the, to be honest, the licensees were using the license that permits them to sell capped, portion of the license that permits them to sell capped cocktails rather than the open, social district cocktails.
Yeah, I think Mill Pond used not Mill Pond.
No,
Willowbrook. Willowbrook used official sort of
Yeah.
looking cups. I don't know if they were. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um,
Too.
So I understand why hi Carl, I understand why the parking lot of the Marina Park is included. Why is the parking lot of the village included?
Because at some point, we would anticipate using, like for Uncaged, we use that as a
the food court.
area. We have that in other circumstances as
Okay.
well. We had an event, for example, where we closed the lot and had tables there for people to use it.
Okay.
That's the reason it's included.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, Barbara.
Yeah. Oh, a suggestion. I heard a lot of confusion from residents about what is the social district and that, is there any possibility of just putting a little thing on the website saying this is a social district, this is what's allowed?
Yeah. Once we actually get it's the final step, really, we've approved everything now. Liquor Control Commission has approved everything that we're responsible for. The licensees apply for their license. We've got,
Mhm.
I think, 4 of the 5 have submitted us. And I understand now that Yard and Lake has decided they want to participate where they had before. We submit all those to the Liquor Control Commission, and then we'll be publishing fairly comprehensive information that will remain on the website, not just for information, but that'll be there all the time. A
But
section.
even though before you have it, might be a little, what is a social district? That kind of thing.
We can do that.
Just, so people know, the people who
Yeah.
mentioned it to me,
Sure.
mentioned it with concern. But no facts and evidence that there was any problem.
True. Yeah, we can certainly add something to the website of with an educational basis, sure.
So if I may.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I didn't know, so like, NPG was selling drinks in like IV bags. And they didn't have the sticker on there, so they can do that as not part of the social district, they can do that anyway, and nobody else had stickers except Willowbrook.
As long as it's a closed container.
It seems like this thing is kind of, if you sell it in a closed container, it's really, there's not really a whole lot of difference.
There is though, because if you're consuming, a lot of it relates to the user. I mean, if they're consuming it in an open container in what would be a social district common area, that's actually a violation of the Liquor Control Act, both for the consumer and for the seller. That's the problem.
So if the people buying, I'm just gonna keep using NPG as an example, it's a bag with a straw in it, and so where were they supposed to drink that? If, I mean, they could not consume that on the sidewalk legally without the sticker?
It's a bit of a gray area, but it would not have been, that's probably something maybe we should discuss privately.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was just curious, because I was just like, what is going on here, and what difference does the social district actually make? And my conclusion is
A
not.
lot of that also is going to be how that develops, because one of the things I think you can do is set up areas on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
Or near the sidewalk right of way where people can congregate. And I've seen social districts where, for example, what I call kiosk tables, it's like a post, a tabletop, and then 4 seats around. They cost about $1,000 each, but that you could have several of those around the community that people could actually use in the social district. And that would be a situation. And one of the real advantages is, as I think we've talked about, you can't buy a drink at one liquor control,
Take it to another.
take it to another, or take it to a place that sells food that is not licensed.
Yeah,
You can't do that. But if we had an area that was not owned by either a licensee or a food service facility.
Yeah.
Set up tables like that, you could then go buy food at a restaurant, get a drink from another place and take and consume them there. And that happens, so people can drink at home. I'll mention Marshall. In the social districts in Marshall, that they do that. There is a winery, there's a winery that has tables on the sidewalk outside of it. That people will go and order food from
Right.
a restaurant. They actually have restaurants who deliver food to that location.
you know, people bring,
Yeah,
when Polly's not open, people bring pizza from the gas station into the Vinton all the time. I don't think
Exactly.
there's any.
That's different.
Okay, I'm starting to get sorry that I asked.
But I think it's a point that we don't have clarity about the rules, and when the management agreement is reviewed, we need to tighten some things up.
Okay,
Susan,
I would like to repeat that we need as soon as possible a Facebook page for our village, so that we can. I don't know, I think we were thinking maybe a new administrative assistant would create that. But,
we have
We don't
talked
have that
about that
person.
internally at staff. The biggest
if more people will see the Facebook page, then we'll go to our
website.
website to see.
The real problem, if you want to have people that will actually access your Facebook page, you have to have content.
Yes,
That's
we have lots of content, I think.
it's actually getting it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, content, it's getting it on, that's the.
Yes, I know, I don't know who would do it, but I think it's.
We've been talking about that internally, how we would do that, so. But that's a good point. That is definitely an objective.
okay, any other discussion on the social district? If not, we'll move on to the discussion of the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on Bay and Rose Street between Main and Sixth.
I asked for this to be put on as a discussion item. One of the things now that I can no longer turn left at the top of each sixth, I use this road almost every day. It becomes more apparent that people don't abide by the 15 mile an hour in the first place. Second place, I think the four-way stop has improved any dangers that were caused by speeding on this road. I would like to consider changing it back to 25 miles an hour.
Well,
yeah, I'm just gonna point out that there are no sidewalks for a good section of that, road, and we do have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on the trunk line with no stop signs at all. If people, so one of the biggest misconceptions about Northport is you can drive all the way through town without ever coming to a complete stop, and MDOT designed it that way. I just think I might be more in favor if there were sidewalks there, but with all the people walking to the farmer's market, especially on Fridays, the baby strollers I see on that road on Friday mornings especially, and at other times, I can't support it. I think you could go down a block and then up to the trunk line and get out of town is probably the same amount of,
2 blocks.
well, I mean, if you could show some public support for this, if you could get people to write letters other than yourself, that there was a consensus of the public that wanted this, it'd be something I'd more consider, but this is like something that's kind of unique to your situation. And though I sympathize with you, I do think for once, I'm gonna be the one who's gonna be the safety guy. And just because of the no sidewalks, I can't support that.
Your point is well taken.
If we had sidewalks, we could have a better discussion about it. I mean, I'd be more open to it, but the lack of sidewalks, that is dangerous down there, especially across from
Right,
peer group.
and then the street administrator.
let Susan, unless you want to let him go first.
No, I listened to what Ann said, listened to what Will said, and I don't see what the harm is in. I mean, people lose a few seconds, less than a minute, going a little slower for a little while. I don't see any harm in, I would like to see 25 all the way from the village, all through the village limit to village limit.
It is.
It is.
No, I don't mean
No.
downtown, I mean from where I live.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As
This
far
is
as gas-
the trunk line.
Yeah,
35.
I would like us to be a village of slow
Ooh,
people.
Yeah.
Slow human. No, but I know that's,
We
I'm
can't control
joking,
that.
I'm joking.
Well,
But
but we can't control. it.
I don't see any harm in this, in leaving it at 15.
Right.
go
I
ahead.
have-
It's difficult. It's very difficult. Even with a golf cart, it seems that go 17 miles an hour down there. I think more than anything to go, it's common knowledge that everything's 25 miles an hour in the village. It's just, you learn that. Driver said, to do 15, that's very tough. Since we have the four-way stop, I can agree with you. It helps mitigate that speeding issue. I've said it before and I'll say it again, that in the past, we need more signs. No, we need police presence. If you want to curtail it, let's get the deputy to sit in different areas. I mean, signs are signs. I just don't, I don't see that it's been, hasn't been adhered to. Again, if you want to slow down, then we need more police presence. But I think the 15, just, with the four-way stop again, reiterate that. I think it helps that.
And I know there's been at least one ticket written for 20 and 15 mile an hour. Out of the sheriff's department.
Car owners.
Interesting. Anyway, I think, there are highway studies out there that'll say that people will go a certain amount over the speed limit, like nobody goes 55 on I-75, okay, but they, in the areas where I-75 is 65, they usually go 70 to 72. But where it's down by Detroit, where it's 75, they go about 7 to 10 miles over that. So the lower you, even though they're not gonna go 15, they might go 22, whereas if it was 25, they're gonna go 33. And I just think, I mean, there are studies on this, and not that I can cite them off the top of my head, but I think by having it at 15, even though they're not gonna go 15, it still does have a psychological effect to slow people down. And I think, yeah, I think slower is better down there, like I said, without sidewalks. It's just not a good situation.
Yeah, I just wonder if anybody has observed behavior such that, someone is going 15, someone else just goes around. That would be very dangerous to.
Well, that'd be illegal, and we can't really prevent.
That happens.
We're here to make laws, not
I
enforce
can
laws.
answer that.
Go ahead.
I've been passed by 3 bicycles and a golf cart, doing 15 miles an hour. That sounds true.
The thing that I think you don't realize is really how slow 15 miles an hour. I can walk 15 miles an hour. It's very, very slow to be in a car. Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Jog 15.
Jog or walk, you can.
Jog.
Yeah, it's very slow, but I don't advocate one thing or another, but I will tell you this, if you did a traffic study, the way they do traffic studies for speed is not to look at studies about behavior, but they actually monitor what speed do people go. And then they set it at 80%, the 80th percentile
Yeah.
of what the speed is.
So that's kind of what I was saying.
And in all likelihood, what you'd end up, if you did a speed study down on either of those two streets, regardless of the sidewalks or not, is you'd come up with a 25 mile an hour speed limit. You would. And the other thing that traffic engineers will tell you is the thing that really calms traffic is the presence of pedestrians, bicycles, other things, because people really, really do slow down for that. They don't slow down for signs. But I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just telling you what I've encountered as a municipal attorney over the years and how municipalities set speeds. I don't think I've ever seen 15 mile an hour speed limit other than in a village. And generally only in areas like within, school areas particularly, so. But
I do agree that the four-way stop has probably decreased the drag race from the corner of the beach house to Fifth Street. Because I think that was the big concern, is that people were using that to get through town faster. And is it 15 all the way from the corner of Bay and Main?
all the way up to
All the way to
to
six.
Everywhere that's not on the trunk line is what we passed in the village, except for, I will point this out, when I was very, 6 years ago, when I first village council meetings where I was on this side of the table, we did pass a 5 mile an hour speed limit on Park Street, and that sign has never been changed from 15. And if you try to negotiate that corner down there at 15 miles an hour, you're gonna go off the road.
Well,
It's supposed to be 5.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be 5. I almost went out there and did it myself. But that is a 5, the council passed Park Street to be 5, not 15, and action was never taken.
I would like to see you go 5 miles an hour on that. Hell, I've seen you go 30, you know? So,
Do as I say, not as I do.
yeah, you know, we're out there every day. We're on the street every day,
Mhm.
as DPW. And to address the sidewalks, do we need a sidewalk between Third and Second? We've kicked that
Yes.
around a few times. It would be,
There should be one there. It's a narrow road.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
but you know, we're in that right away, yeah, it's a different discussion, but we have a lot of folks, we have sidewalks that are wide open.
Yeah.
And we see people walking down the road, we're coming down the road with a truck or a loader, and they're not gonna move. Sidewalks right over there, folks, it's frustrating, it's frustrating.
Maybe it's because they're in such bad shape, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Okay, but anyhow, also, but, so, yeah, a lot of folks use.
The only other thing I'd say is if you're really serious about slowing down traffic, you wouldn't install signs, you'd install speed bumps.
Yeah, we talked about that. We're not doing that.
That's the only
Oh,
thing you can guarantee.
Yeah, you can't plow those.
No, and you can't, that's exactly right.
Roundabouts.
Do we want to move this? Do we want to take a vote on this next meeting?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thought.
Let's have some discussion. Let's see if we get any feedback from our
Yeah,
constituents,
let's-
you know,
let's-
talk to
let's make this
people,
law.
say, do they drive down there? You know,
Let's
what's,
get some feedback from the public.
I do think we don't need 15 all the way down to Sixth Street myself, but, and I walk there frequently.
yeah, that's your neighborhood down there with
Yeah.
the dog.
But on the flip side, Will's right, there are a lot of people walking down that road. They walk their dogs, they walk,
Visitors from North Shore.
but still, it's,
Yeah.
you know,
It's really farmer's market for me, and because it's packed down there, and the cars parked all down
And
Park
music in the
Street.
park.
And music in the park.
We could, farmer's market, social district, we could close the road and have a
Okay.
big
This is
party.
turning into my worst nightmare.
let's move on to.
All right, let's move on. Okay, discussion on 15 mile an hour. No, we're good on that.
I just asked it to be an action item next month. And
Okay,
see where it
sure.
goes.
It'll be there,
Sure.
it'll be there.
Okay, we have a new business. We have an action concerning the NLTUA loan documentation and this is in regards to the funds that NLTUA borrowed from the village. But this just gives us some more clarification and some actual, it's in the packet. And there was a motion in the manager's report.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what's in the report briefly is that you've already authorized this loan.
Yeah.
This is just documenting it, and it's been something that the auditors for both Mintula and the village have requested that we undertake. The other thing, again, I want to emphasize, this was really called a loan, but it was really the village agreeing to defer payments of amounts that were collected by Natula but owed to the village for debt, for the bond payments. So again, Natula collects it, but we don't need it until the end of the year when we make the bond, or the time when we make the
Debt
bond
service.
payment. So it was okay for them to hold on for that for a period of time, and we do make 2% interest on that, so just so people understand what's going on, we're not approving anything new, this is documentation of a past event.
So I move that the Northport Village Council approve the capital improvement advance agreement and authorize the village manager to sign on behalf of the village.
Support.
All right, moved by James, supported by Will to approve the NL2A loan documentation. Any discussion?
Just to let you know, at the last NLTUA meeting, this was approved by that board, just as a clarification, so they're kind of expecting us to do this, and there's no reason we wouldn't.
And it's just between the village and LTUA, so there's no township action required.
But they're probably gonna do something similar too. Oh, no, they're not.
No,
No, they're
they're
not
not
involved.
Okay, never mind.
No other discussion? All in favor, again, it was moved by Jane, supported by Will. To approve the NL2A loan documentation. Roll call vote?
Don't need it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nays? All right, motion passes. We have action concerning paving contract at the South Shore Culvert. And there was a Elmer's bid in the packet for $6,300. Chris or Jim, any other input other than what's in the packet?
No, not really. It's just that the reason we want to do this now rather than wait to do it later is again, we're not gonna have asphalt contractors for maybe until the end of this month, so we want to get it done now. And it really will impact plowing in that area. That's the one job that Chris says we need to do for that purpose. So,
And damage, potential damage to the culvert. So,
oh, and we don't want to, well, heck with the culvert, we don't want to damage our truck. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
Patty.
Not the plow, please, not the
I'm just kidding.
I move that the Northport Village Council accept the proposal from T. Numbers for the scope of work located in Area 3, the South Shore culvert described in the proposal dated 9/9/24 in the amount of $6,300. Authorize the village manager to sign all contracts necessary to complete the project on behalf of the village and approve a transfer of $6,300 from fund balance in the general fund to capital projects in the local street fund.
Support.
Moved by Susan, supported by Jane to approve Northport Village accept the proposal from Team Albers as noted in the packet. Discussion,
I just have a question.
yeah,
Was this a sole source, request for proposal?
Yep.
And because there are no other providers or?
It was the only one we could get to do it this quickly. That's basically, and the other proposals will come to you at another time perhaps, and with other contractors bidding.
Does the purchasing policy require competitive bids below 10,000?
Not to my knowledge.
I didn't think it did, but
Does not. But even when it doesn't, there are times.
Yeah, when we will,
would,
yeah.
When we would do that, and this would be one.
that was really just a clarification
Sure.
that this fits within the purchasing policy that the staff operates under.
yeah, Laura.
So the Elmer's bid had a bunch of other stuff in it too. We're not doing that stuff.
Correct.
So is that gonna change the price? Like, did they price it because there was so much that they were doing and it's gonna be more than 6,300? We need to approve a little more?
That
or
was the price for that particular project, why I had him here.
He just priced other stuff, so you had an idea.
Yep, so
Got
at least the current pricing.
Yeah, so you have
And then if
numbers.
we come back around in the spring, and we'll maybe get a few more contracts.
I just want to be sure,
Yep.
because I know that sometimes, when you're bundling stuff together, they're like, oh, we're all there, so it'll be less. But then if you're pulling it out, all of a sudden, like, wait a minute.
Yes.
So,
I think the contractor in that instance also realizes this is kind of not quite an emergency, but something we really. do
very
need to get
time
done
sensitive.
this
Right.
month.
They closed the asphalt plants down November 14th.
Yeah, so it's moved by Susan, supported by Jane to approve the Team Elmer's contract for $6,300. Roll, yeah. Oh, let's see, roll call vote, starting with Will.
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and yes. All right, motion carries. Next up, we have ratify staff signatures for Huntington Tree Committee CD resolution.
I'll move that the village council ratify the signatures and actions taken by staff to implement the banking resolution to fund a certificate of deposit dated September 18th, 2024 for the tree fund, and that was presented in the packet.
Support.
Moved
And
by
just as a,
James, supported by Hugh.
just as a member of the tree committee, we asked the staff to invest unused funds to earn a little more interest, since we won't be planting trees for a number of months.
Got it. All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor, again, moved by Jane, supported by Hugh, for the Northport Village Council ratify the signatures on the actions taken by staff to implement the banking resolutions to fund a certificate of deposit dated September 18th, 2024 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nays? Motion carries. Next up, we have action concerning EDOC sidewall project. I just said to Hugh, if we can get the motion first, then we can have the discussion.
I'm sorry, but which is the EDOC?
I will move the Northport Village Council authorize village manager to proceed with construction of the EDOC sidewalk project and enter into a contract with third-party concrete vendor in an amount not to exceed $11,000, and to take all actions and sign all documents necessary to complete the project.
Second.
All right, moved by Barb, supported by Will to authorize the village manager to approve the construction of EDOC sidewalk project. $11,000. Any discussion?
Yeah, this is very good news.
Which is
this
the EDOC? Please
yeah.
help me.
The wall.
That's
The North.
where you and I are.
Where you and I are.
Yeah, so yeah, this was gonna be looking like an ominously expensive thing, and it looks like, some people have done some good thinking and, used some local resources and come up with a very cost-effective solution, so I applaud our DPW and, everybody else who's involved in this, to make this a lot less expensive than it was going to be, so I think this is a no-brainer.
Awesome, is that gonna fix that corner there?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to make it.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, again, moved by Barb, supported by Will to approve the EDOC sidewalk project, cost of $11,000. Roll call vote, starting with Susan,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
and yes. All right, motion carries. That brings us to action concerning the water rate study recommendation. We discussed the water rate study last month, I thought at length, I had the presentation from Dawn, the packet was in the packet again. Did anybody, again, the motion is in here, I guess if we can get a motion, then we can have the discussion.
Since I only have one more meeting.
I'll read it, if anyone wants.
I was going to offer to, since I only have one meeting left after.
Well,
this.
let's have you do it.
Is this your last meeting?
Absolutely.
No, you have
Not
one
one
more.
more. But I won't be on the council when the rates are hiked.
Oh, I see.
No, it's nice.
Well, I'm not up for election, so I'll second it. Go ahead.
I move that the Northport Village Council adopt the recommendation of the water rate study. Increase the water system base rates and usage rates by 20% effective with the October 2024 billing. Increase water fund revenue budget by $19,000. Increase the water fund capital expense budget by $12,000. Increase the water fund balance by $7,000, and authorize the village manager to enter into a contract for the replacement of the SCADA system for an amount not to exceed $12,000, and to take all actions and sign all documents necessary to complete the project.
Second.
Second.
And, I was teasing about this. It's not an easy decision, but it's something that we realize just has to be done to sustain the infrastructure of the village water system.
Susan,
Have we heard anything from any constituents about this?
Not directly in any kind of formal sense. I would be lying if I said there weren't people that commented that this was too much, and it's gonna be over the course of several years, and it's too expensive and all that. But as Don Lund indicated, we are extremely low in terms of what our water
Yes.
rates are compared to other communities like this. And
when you say there were people who commented, are we talking about 15 people or
I
3
couldn't
people?
really, because they weren't really just on the street comment type things, that, and, but not any phone calls.
No
and letters or
calls,
anything
no
like that.
correspondence, no emails.
No, but the thing that
I certainly haven't heard any.
I haven't either.
I emphasize in the written report, and I think it's worthy to say it publicly, is this is only gonna generate, we're $18,742.16 for the entire year. And I understand that it might impact individuals, in a bigger way, but the reason that I proposed that we do this now for the October billing is originally we thought we might be able to defer it until even January, which would cover the October, November, December months. But the SCADA system is something we really need to do now. And I didn't realize that until a recent conversation with Dave Tompkins, our water administrator. The reason you have to do the SCADA system now is it communicates with all the various points of contact, electronic, like a Wi-Fi system. And you have to test it when the trees are leaved instead of when they're
Bare.
they're bare, because if you do that, the Wi-Fi signal is vastly different. And you might test it in the winter and say, yeah, this works, but then the leaves come back and all of a sudden it doesn't work. And this is the system that automates the water and more important, water delivery system, and more importantly, gives us warnings when there's a problem that needs to be directly and immediately addressed. So this is a critical system that needs to be replaced, and we need the money. It's currently not budgeted, and this will pay for it completely.
They actually have apps on their phone that monitor this.
Yes, yep. The other thing that I want to make it clear is it sounds like maybe we're approving something more than, because we're increasing revenue by 19,000, increasing capital expense by 12,000, we're actually increasing, a credit account and 2 debit accounts. That's why it sounds like
Yeah.
they offset each
Yeah.
other. So it's really only going to be an approximately $19,000 increase in the revenue over the course of a year. And it'll be for the full fiscal year starting in July of 2024. So that's really the basis for the recommendation.
Okay. All right, so it was moved by Jane and supported by Will.
Just we did talk last week about whether there was some means of providing emergency financial assistance to people who might have trouble with the rate increase, and I don't know if that's been explored.
We haven't, not directly.
Okay.
We didn't know whether we're going to implement it now or in the future, but if to the extent we get those requests, we'll find ways to do that, yes.
Moved by Jane, supported by Will to, let's see, increase the water rate system base rates and usage rates by 20% effective with October 24 billing. Let's see, roll call vote, starting with Will.
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and yes, motion passes. All right, brings us to payment of the bills. In the amount of. I move we pay the bill in the amount of $116,000, $494.23. $116,494.23.
Second.
Thanks, Will. Moved by Chris, supported by Will, to approve the bills. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, starting with Susan.
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
and yes. Bills are paid. That brings us to our second public comment. 5 minutes for anybody here in person or in Zoom. Carl?
Good evening, my name is Carl Wazinski, I live at 107 Park Drive, and I'm also the agent for Three Rivers Properties, which owns the Minton, where Minton uses, the property Minton uses. Last December, Jim, coming to Northport, and I came to an agreement on, with Minton, Three Rivers and myself about the status of where the property line is on Park Drive. On page 3 of the report, which Jim gave you tonight, under number 11, there are 3 things. There were the initial thing was I needed to do a long-term contract with the Minton starting last February, and that was done last February. It's a 5-year plus a 5-year, very reasonable rate. The village was supposed to do 3 things: quick claim deed to Three Rivers. That would be the brewery property. A quick claim deed to myself. That's my property next door. And the third was to move the road to where it should be. None of those have been done. The other option, the other part of the agreement was that I would continue to allow the village to use with the Minton, the lighting of the Christmas tree and other things. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm disappointed that we've waited this long, and I just want to make sure everyone knows that the village has not met their commitment. And the last thing that was said when this was discussed in February was, what's going to keep Carl from committing doing this? Right here at this corner. So I just tell you, I'm disappointed that the updates and status and the progress of this has been delayed so significantly. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Any other public comment from Zoom? Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you for that discussion of the speed limit issue. I would, again, like to ask whether or not a sidewalk, particularly in the block 2nd to 3rd Street on Rose Street, has ever been put on the capital improvement plan list and given any kind of a priority. I would suggest that maybe given the conversation today, at least that block probably ought to be considered as sidewalk worthy for all of us, for the safety of everyone in the future. I'd also just like to ask whether or not the village has in one of its committees, infrastructure, or not quite sure where it would fall, had any discussion and done any pricing on having a Wi-Fi available in the downtown area. A lot of people are dependent on the library as the only free Wi-Fi in town, and the library is not open 24/7. And been a lot of discussion among library patrons and so on about when is the village ever going to do that. A lot of communities do have it in their main business district, and we don't have a huge business district. And I'd like to suggest, if it hasn't already been suggested, that either infrastructure or whatever other committee is appropriate, look into that. It's not really, it's a service. I think we would pay for it. We could try it, see how valuable it was. It seems to me as useful as a social district to our patrons who are just trying to get around, communicate with people, figure out where to go, to tourists who can't find our visitor center, but wonder why they can't get Wi-Fi information on their phones. So I hope you'll consider that as I think a pretty affordable amenity that I think would be a great advantage for the village. Thanks.
Thanks, Ann. Any other public comment?
I think the game is tied 2-2.
And for the record, I can address the question regarding public Wi-Fi. We have explored that for a couple of reasons. One, to facilitate point of sale equipment at the farmers market and also in the downtown area. And when we set up the temporary facility for Uncaged, I talked with the the folks at Spectrum and asked them to provide a bid for that, what it would take so we can at least, the problem is they may be the only source we can use. But we'll figure that out as well. But it is something that we've been exploring for sure. And the only negative comment that I've heard is some of the businesses would prefer we not do that because they supply that to their patrons and that's a draw to their business. So that's the countervailing consideration we have to take into consideration.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, moves us to council comment. Any council comments? Susan?
I'm hesitant to bring this up, but I think we owe it to the public to say what we're thinking about in terms of the trash pickup that we promised them this year.
I mentioned at the last meeting, even before that, we were planning on doing something in the spring.
Okay, I'm sorry, I think I was missing for that meeting.
Anyone?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on something from last month. There was a comment that you're going to look into the claim that there were stones being put in the creek around Second Street. Did anything happen with that?
It looks like that has occurred and basically evaluating what we might do about it. Have not really reached a decision on that yet. Honestly, we've had quite a lot of involvement with preparing for the audit that probably had the most distracted from a lot of other things, including that.
I had a second question, maybe following up on an earlier question regarding your agreement to look into how utility assistance might be administered. And probably the same answer applies to that one, I'm thinking.
True.
Okay.
Again, and until really this week, I wasn't certain that we'd be implementing that, or I'd be recommending implementing that in October. That was really dependent upon the SCADA, the need to finance the SCADA system and to get that on the budget now.
But it's the sewer plus the water. It's not just the water. So maybe nobody needs the help. We don't know that either.
Well, two things that, I'm kind of confused on why we really need a central Wi-Fi in Northport. We get an excellent 5G signal, on 3 carriers. And it's a pretty high speed connection and you can turn your phone into a hotspot and boom, you can get, I used to do it here, in village council meetings when they wouldn't give me the password. It would. And, so anyway, I think that's, the technology is gonna make that, kind of move, over time. Secondly, as to the, administrator's report or manager's report in terms of Park Street, I think I'm in agreement with all the action that's planned. But I think that if you're gonna do some of it, you should do it all. And we should be talking to Ross about the illegal encroachment that's going on at the end of Park Street with the locked gate that is on village property, the plantings, which I don't think we oppose, but we should approve them retroactively. And this landscaping that's gone on in the creek bed, which is clearly not proper in one way or another, but if you're gonna do it, let's do it all. Because that infringement, impingement, whatever you wanna call it, on village property, and I know Chris is with me on this, has gone on for way too long. And I think it's time we did, if you're gonna do it, let's do it all. And not worry about, consequences between 2 other private landowners that may be going on and how the village would affect that. We have village property that needs to be maintained and taken care of in a proper manner, and according to law, and it is not, and it has not been for some time. So that's my 2 cents.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll let you go. I just will concur with that. I think we need to get right with Carl and we need to clear up everything else that's gone on Park Drive here. With regards to other property owners. It just, one thing I think we have really done in the last 2 years, since I've been president, is that with the addition of our village manager, we have become a much more professionally run village. And I think we have become a little bit more on top of things, although some things may slide here and there, but I think it's time for us to not let things just kind of go because we live, north of the 45th parallel and,
Yeah.
that's how it is. So let's clean up the things that are going on Park Drive and get that taken care of. So go ahead. Well, Barb.
No, you covered it.
Oh, okay. Anything else?
I'll move to adjourn.
Any support?
That alarm is.
Yes.
All right. We're adjourned.
I knew that was in violation of.
Bottom of the six, 2-2.
3-2 who?
2-2.
Oh, 2-2, yeah.
Bottom of the six.
All right.